Hi, so this week we're making a part 2 of my Nintendo Switch, which was bought from eBay, which was a bit of a scam. I'll leave the link for part 1 in the description and just up above. But I bought this with the understanding that it had a fall. After opening it up and having a closer look, it definitely hadn't. I think it had been harvested for parts. So I wanted to return it with eBay. They agreed that it was a scam sale. The seller weirdly didn't want it back. So I kept it and I thought for opportunity's sake we'll take it apart and see if it's fixable. So we take the few screws that are in the back out, and there's only a couple in the heat shield as well, so we'll take them out as well. First thing we do, disconnect the battery, and then I'm going to have to get the board out completely so we can have a good check over and check all the chips around. I've also got myself a working screen, so I know that this screen definitely works. So the first thing we're going to do is put it into a working screen, plug it in, and see if we get any difference. So nothing's coming on screen, so we definitely have some kind of issues with the board itself. So we'll get it under the microscope. I'm going to check around the M92 chip. If it beeps on both sides of a cap, then it means it's bad. So it's beeping on this one here, which normally means it's something to do with the chip on the back. I'm going to check this bit, and I'm also going to check the fuse to make sure the fuse is fine. So that's beeping okay. So we check the back, the P13 chip, we get a beep either side. There's a good chance that this chip's the fault. So this is what we're going to have to remove first. So we'll apply a little bit of flux, and then we'll come in with 420C, leave it on there for a couple of minutes, and then we can gently lift it off. Give it a quick clean with these new sponge cleaning pad things that I've bought. And now once it's cooled down, we come in with the amp meter, and you can see it's not beeping on either side of these chips, so that definitely was the issue. The P13, now the short has gone. So now we'll apply a little bit more flux, and then we'll come in with our hot air and we'll reapply a new P13 chip. Just make sure it's on in the correct place, line it all up, give it a couple of nudges if it needs it. And then we'll come in and give it another clean. So plug it into my amp meter to see what reading we get, and now I'm getting nothing on the display, which is a little bit strange. So I just have a little quick check of the pins, and as we zoom in, you can see that some of the pins have actually come loose. So someone's obviously already replaced the port, which wasn't done a great job, and this extra heat I've added has made it come off even more. We're going to have to replace that, so we come in with some new fresh flux, we come in with 440C heat, and then we'll just keep moving it around. We need to melt all the solder. As you can see, it nudged there, so we come with our tweezers, and then we carefully lift it away, making sure we don't get any rip pads. Then we'll come in with some solder wick, and then we're going to clean away the port legs to make it easy to fit. These ones in the corner are normally a little bit harder, so I'll come in with a little bit more flux and have my soldering iron and the hot air station held on down, and this will help remove all of the solder out of the portholes. And then we'll clean these pins as well, and then that's all done. And then we can come in with some isopropyl and give it another good clean, get rid of all the old flux. Now we come in with some fresh flux and some fresh solder, and we're going to tin these pads ready for the new port to go on. So new flux, have it hanging over the side of the table, heat from below, leave it heating for a couple of minutes, wait for all the pads to turn to molten solder, and then we can come in with a new port, keep the heat moving. Once you're happy that it's all lined up, just press down and then remove the heat and leave it like that for a minute or two to make sure the solder solidifies. Once it's cooled down, we can flip the board over, and then we can apply some fresh solder to all the port leg corners. Just hold it down as long as you can so it all flows through, and then once we're done we can come back in and give it a good clean with isopropyl. And then we check the pins, and as you can see they're all solid. Now we plug it in and we're getting a reading. So it jumps right up, so it's a good reading. But what should normally happen now is it should go off and it turned itself back on, which shows it's booting. So we're not getting any 0 ampage, so it's definitely not booting. So it makes me think it may be stuck in RCM mode. So I'm just going to plug in a jig down the side. We'll plug it in. We're going to plug the USB into a computer, and we're going to load Tegra RCM and try and boot Hitachi. So you hold the volume up and the power button, and then you should get this. And as you can see, I'm getting a little bit of an error screen, which is always a good sign. So now I've created an SD card with Hitachi and Atmosphere on. So I've attached the SD card, then the battery on. We just need to plug it in. Once again, volume up and the power button. And there we can see we're booting to Hitachi. There is a problem with the EMC, which obviously I'm not surprised at, but we're going to boot through. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to try and launch official firmware to begin with. So this is just booting the switch normally, which we haven't had the chance to do previously. So as you can see, nothing's booting there, we're just getting a black screen. So I'm going to have to turn it off and on again. So hold the volume up again, and then we'll get back to Hitachi, go to launch. So I'm going to do this semi-stock custom firmware. So we get the Nintendo logo, which is good. And then do we get anything else? So it's quite slow. We'll get the Nintendo Switch logo. But as you can see, this also seems quite slow. So there's definitely still an issue with it. It's taking ages, taking ages. A lot of the times it will just freeze on this. But this time it's actually booted. So now we've got a Nintendo Switch that's booting up. But it does still have issues. But technically it's kind of working. But there is still problems with it. So after this, I had a little mess with it, got a few things going. I turned it off, I turned it back on, and unfortunately since then I've not been able to reboot it. So it's definitely an issue with the software side, the EMC side. I may look at trying to reinstall the software, the firmware onto it if I can, but it will just turn into a donor board. Any suggestions on what I can do next, please leave them in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.